Okay, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for attending here. I want to introduce the two panelists here. We have Kimberly Mata Rubio, the mother of Lexi Rubio, and Veronica Mata, the mother of Tess Mata. I want to thank you guys for doing this. I know that it's never easy to talk about some of these things, so I appreciate you guys being here. I wanted to start off, with the fact that the anniversary is coming up, and I wanted to ask you, how has this year been, and how has, since the shooting, your outlook on life has changed? What do you guys prioritize now, day to day, dealing with your family and the political activism that you guys have been involved in?
So I think my first priority is my family more over than my job. I used to spend lots of extra hours working as a teacher in my classroom, and I missed out on a lot. I missed out on trips. I missed out on field day. I missed out on some award ceremonies. And that's something that I'll never get to get back. And so that's something that I prioritize now. I make sure that I leave at irregular hours, and I'm there for my family. I'm there for my daughter, my oldest daughter, and my husband now.
I don't know if I've really found a balance yet. I try to stay really busy because it helps, but I'm also a mom to 4 other children that need me. So it's still an everyday challenge. The year, I don't even know if there's a way to describe that to someone who doesn't understand. It's like living in a nightmare.
I know, Veronica, you and I had talked about this before, your relationship with Faith, your oldest, and Kimberly, you just mentioned you have 4 other children. How has your relationship with the rest of your children changed since May 24th of last year?
It's changed a lot. We've always been a very close family. But I just don't know how to help her. I don't know the words to tell her to make her feel better, because I'm not better. So it's hard trying to tell her that everything's going to be okay when I'm not okay. So we try to figure out things. We're working on it, but it's hard. It's really hard.
We're also a very close-knit family. My children, the bond they have is beautiful. My 18-year-old still plays with my 9-year-old. But I do find that we avoid being in spaces where we're all together. I wrote a column that'll come out in Sunday's edition of the Uvalde Leader News, and I talk about watching movies with them, and we don't watch movies together as a family anymore because that's when it's most obvious that she's not there. We'll all be sitting at the dinner table, and it can be an okay moment where we're laughing, and it just gets silent, and I see everybody's faces change, and I know what all of us are thinking. We really miss Lexi.
I know that you guys are having a hard time with, processing a lot of what's going on. And so I'm wondering, how are you guys seeking the help that you guys need as far as therapy? I know that there's a state-funded resiliency center here. And so I'm wondering, is that an option that you guys tried, and if not, why not? And the incurring cost of going to therapy, is that something that you guys are dealing with right now?
I know for us, we probably started seeking physical therapy, or not physical therapy, but therapy Probably around September, I guess. We didn't want anybody from Uvalde. So we were able to get with somebody, and we were with them probably for about 3 months, 4 months, and then they moved. They had to go back to San Antonio. And so since then, we haven't spoken with anybody anymore. It was free here, but we just haven't, with both my husband and I both working, we just haven't had the time to go back.
I'm not ready for therapy. I feel like talking about it just makes it real. And I very much just try to avoid this reality and just stay busy.
So how do you guys get through the moments? I mean, when something like this happens, your loved ones are not prepared, right, to help you learn those coping skills. They're not professionals, right? So I'm wondering, how do you guys get through those rough moments when you're reminded of your children and trying to get through the day?
We stay busy, cleaning a lot more, going to Austin, going to Washington. Those things have taken the place of that. I feel nobody knows what we're going through because they're not in our shoes. So it's hard to talk to other families that don't know. So we just stay busy.
Yeah, I think when you're talking to someone outside the 21 families, they want to fix it for you, but there's no fixing this. And sometimes you just want to be heard, just want to vent. And it's also very hard to just be vulnerable with people. I find myself just keeping to close friends and my husband when we're discussing Lexi and the hardships we're going through, because they understand.
Yeah.
Veronica, you mentioned the political activism, going to Austin, going to DC. Kimberly, you've also been very outspoken about wanting to change the gun laws. How has that been for you guys, that experience? I mean, Kimberly, you had that meeting with Senator Ted Cruz that was a bit contentious. And so I'm wondering, how has that, when you guys meet lawmakers, how do they treat you and how do they talk to you? Do you guys feel respected? Do you guys feel listened to?
I know the ones that we met with, they were, very respectful. They listened to our stories. I don't think we got an opportunity to meet with anybody that wasn't willing to listen or wasn't willing to have an open view. Unlike Kim, that she had that situation with Senator Cruz. We were lucky that we didn't have to deal with anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, we meet some politicians that are in our corner and others that are just unwilling to sympathize, open their eyes. It's difficult, but those meetings are also, they're just as important.
Can you tell me how you left that meeting with Senator Ted Cruz? I recently read a story about you, you left mad after that. Are you still mad about that?
Yes, he was just disrespectful. We sat down, and in the middle of introductions, he has a staffer come in and bring him a Dr. Pepper. He just slouched there and pretended to listen to us. He never touched the Dr. Pepper. A couple of minutes in, he interrupts my husband to say that he doesn't believe that guns are the problem and that he just wants to discuss mental health. And then he cuts the meeting short. As I left, I just told him that I was going to make sure he wasn't reelected.
This past election, you guys threw a lot of your support behind Beto O'Rourke. It didn't go as you guys wanted, and even in Uvalde County, it went for Governor Abbott. I was there with you guys on election night, and Veronica, I remember you telling me it felt like a slap in the face that it was your own neighbors, your own community who was still supporting Governor Abbott. Have you guys grown disillusioned with the political system, or how do you guys continue to have hope?
I mean, we have to continue to have hope. How can we not? It's not made up of just one political party. It's made up of two. And we have to come out and we have to speak to make people understand that we're not always going to all agree on the same topics. We're not always going to agree on, banning guns. But there has to be a fine line somewhere where we can meet in between and make those changes that are right for everyone, not just for one person.
We had conversations with Uvaldians who were struggling with that decision. They don't normally vote Democrat, but they understood there was a problem with Abbott. And the best way I put it was, you're never going to agree with everything a politician stands for. But Bethel was on the side of children, of saving lives. How is that not your number one priority? I held out hope, but I also recognized the state that I live in. And I understood that it was going to be an uphill battle. But Uvalde specifically voting for Abbott after everything, being able to firsthand witness what we went through, it's disgusting.
What's sort of feedback that you guys gotten from the community? I mean, I know that me being here, the few times that I've been here, I think I think there's a perception that Uvalde is united, but every time I come here, there seems to be some division among the community about how to go about, solving a gun issue or what needs to be done to prevent another mass shooting. Can you describe to us sort of the feedback that you guys get, the good and the bad?
I think it's more than just political when you talk about division. I think there's just a part of the community that's just ready to move on. Like, this whole situation was inconvenient for them, and they're ready to put it behind them and move on so that Uvalde isn't just remembered for this tragedy. But that's not what we want. We don't want Uvalde to just be remembered for this tragedy. We just want to honor our children and those two teachers. They should always be remembered. They always have a place. This is their community. I read an article recently where the mayor discusses the downtown plaza, the crosses that are up right now, and how it's been a year and enough time has passed, and that plaza belongs to the community. So he needs to discuss with us about removing them. You do this interview prior to even speaking to the families.
Our children were just as much as part of this community as every other child that lives in this community right now.
Can you tell me how you feel about that, about how the mayor wants to, I presume, wants to remove the crosses from the plaza?
I can't speak to his personal opinion. I guess he's trying to state what he's heard from others. I don't understand it, though, because we've been in talks with discussion about a permanent memorial there.
And it's just not the plaza. We've heard certain people not wanting to purchase buildings because murals are on there. They want the murals removed. How can you say that you are united in a community when you're trying to tear down our baby's pictures? I don't understand that. I don't understand how you can say you're backing our families up when behind our backs you're trying to tear them down. I don't understand that.
And if it's a personal opinion with parents, I don't think that should have an effect on children, their children. They should be honored, they should be remembered.
You mentioned it's not the division, or the disagreements aren't always political. I'm wondering, how do you reconcile wanting to honor your children publicly when there are parents who had surviving children and feel triggered by some of the murals or some of the things that are being put up for the children. Some of those parents are worried for their children and how they'll react when they see those things. How do you reconcile those two things, wanting to keep your children's memory alive while also respecting the children who may feel triggered by it?
I think I can only speak for my daughter, who's no longer here, and I want her memory honored. I want to see her face on a mural.
I mean, we never wanted this. We never wanted our children to be gone. We never wanted those children to have to sit there and live with that day. But they get to see their children grow up, and they get to see their children move on and go to college and get married and have children. All we get is our mural. And it's not right.
Veronica, something, when you and I first met, something that you told me really got to me, which was, this isn't just affecting the parents, but the siblings of the victims, right? And Faith, your oldest, had told you, I'm paraphrasing here, but I remember her telling you something like, you still have a daughter, which is Faith, right? But she'll never have her sister again, or she'll never have her bridesmaid again. So are there other examples of that sort of conflict that you guys have been going through with your family? You as a parent trying to also help your other children who lost their sibling. How do you guys try to empathize with them?
So Faith, we just try different. We have to try different things. Faith didn't want to go back to school. This would have been her last year, her senior year at Texas State. We both had planned not to go back to work for a while. I wasn't ready. My husband wasn't ready. But in conversations with my husband, I tell him, if we don't go back, she's not going to go back. We have to show her that we can try to live our days day to day, so that way she can go back. And so we made the decision to go back, and Faith came to us and she told us, she's like, I feel better knowing that you guys are going back, that I can go back. And that was the only way I could get her to go back to school. So we make those sacrifices to get your child where she needs to be. And she did it. She graduated. It was the toughest year of her life. I don't know how she did this year. I don't know how she did it. She did, and I know that her sister's proud of her for finishing her senior year and graduating, and she graduated on Friday. So, we make those sacrifices for our children, and I would have made that sacrifice for Tess if I had the opportunity, and I didn't. I would think any mother would try to make those sacrifices for them.
Kimberly, is there any sort of sacrifices you've been making for your 4 children now? You have to take care of yourself, but you also have to find the will and power to take care of your other 4 children. How do you manage that?
I think Lexi would want me. Lexi would want her siblings to be happy. She would want them to have the mom she had. I don't know if I can quite deliver that anymore, but I really, really try. There are sacrifices. I'm gone a lot. know my kids have missed out on a lot this year. I know that their lives have changed and that they need me. And I try my best to balance being there for them and making sure that Lexi is remembered. It makes me feel better that they understand that. They never hold it against me. My oldest, Calyssa's like, Mom, I always see Lexi, and I know that's because you're out there speaking. It makes me feel better, but I recognize the time I'm away from them.
One of the things I've noticed is that you guys have created friendships among some of the parents. And can you elaborate on that a little? I mean, I don't know, were you guys friends before? I know, Veronica, you're really close with the Cáceres. What sort of, I think it was you had told me that at one point that, you wish you guys would have bonded before May 24th, but obviously it happened this way. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me sort of the support and the bond you've gotten from the other families?
Yeah, so I had never met Kim or Felix before. Tess and Lexi played on the same softball team. But we would see them there, but it was just a regular hi, bye, as we're passing through. And the Cáceres, we had known them since Tess was in pre-K. Tess and Jackie were in the same classroom, and it was right across the hall from me. So I saw them every morning as they, got to school, and I took Tess to her classroom. Jackie would even buy, like on Teacher Appreciation or Mother's Day or whatever, when she would go and take gifts to her teacher, she would bring me one too. And she's like, we've got to give Tess's mom one too. Mom, she's a teacher too. So that's how we made that connection there. But with Kim and Felix, it was a different kind of connection that we didn't even realize that we had made that day of May 24th, that we didn't find out probably till maybe February, yeah. I want to say. So Kim had thought that she was in the restroom and she had been talking to Gloria at the Civic Center. And I had heard her tell the story over and over again. She's like, I know it was you, Gloria, I know it was you. But Gloria was never at the Civic Center. She never made it to the Civic Center. And finally, I think when things kind of calmed down and Kim was telling the story again, and then she told the story of what I had told her. And then I turned and I looked at her and I was like, Kim, that was me. I was like, I was the one in the restroom. And I remember telling her, our babies are going to be okay. Our babies are going to be fine. And that's how we kind of made that connection. We started our friendship. And then Washington and then Austin, the Austin trips. But these two ladies have been amazing. There's days that I don't know if I could get through them without them. I know that it's like they sense when I'm having a bad day. Kim will just send me a text, I love you, are you doing okay? Gloria, the same. It's like they know when I'm having a hard day. If something comes out, we know right away that we're all going to see it, and it's weird, but like all the same text messages come out at the same time. Love you, thinking of you. I'm here if you need anything.
And how has that experience helped you, Kim, bonding with Veronica or any other parents that then went through the same situation?
It's a lifeline. It's a judgment-free zone. I tell them things I wouldn't tell anyone else. When we're together, it's a little bit of relief. Talking about the girls as if they're in the other room. I feel like I know Tess and Jackie. I don't know if I could get through this without them.
that makes me wonder, Texas has been the site of other mass shootings. And I don't know if you guys have heard from other family members in other cities who've experienced this, or if you guys have reached out to other families that recently experienced this. Have you guys found a support system that way as well, or how, or when you guys see what happened with the most recent mass shooting, what do you guys think about reaching out, or do you guys empathize with those families?
My heart sunk when I hear about additional mass shootings. I know exactly what those parents are going through. I know what it feels like for someone to look at you and tell you that your child is a victim. I know what it's like to plan the funeral. I know that a year later it won't be any better, and that none of it will be any better. There's a lot of guilt too.
Yeah.
That
We didn't do enough.
Yeah, nothing we've done has changed anything, and that's why their children are dead.
Veronica, how do you process that when you see the news of other mass shootings?
I mean, it just brings it all back again to that day. I try not to watch the news. We try not to listen because it just brings back all those memories again. And it's a horrible feeling knowing that somebody else is having to go through the same thing that we're going through.
This shooting, obviously affected the whole community, and I feel like it's traumatized a generation of children in Uvalde, right? I'm wondering, is this something you guys think about, how this shooting may manifest in this generation of children? How, if they don't get the help that they need, if they don't go treated with their mental health issues, how it might manifest 5, 10, 15 years from now?
I guess we don't think about it as often because we don't have our children. Our children didn't survive.
Kimberly, you said earlier that you weren't ready to start seeing a therapist. Do you think that's something you want to do eventually?
No. I don't need somebody to tell me what's wrong with me. I know I'm broken. There's no way to fix it.
You guys have been very outspoken. You guys have, Veronica, you trusted me a lot when we did that story on you. But I'm wondering the role of journalists coming into town. How did you guys initially react when you guys saw dozens, hundreds of journalists coming into town, and have your perspectives changed a year later?
I remember people coming to my door that day or the next day. I remember they were knocking on our doors, and I remember Jerry had gone outside to throw out the trash, and they had just had the press conference at the high school. And there was a journalist walking down our alley asking them if we lived there. And Jerry told him no. At the beginning, it was We didn't speak with anybody. We didn't want to talk with anybody. We had a relative that was helping kind of weed everything out, answering the doors for us. And she spoke with one reporter, and out of all of the ones that had come to the house, we had stacks and stacks of cards of people that had come by. And this one, for some reason, she said, I think this one is a good one. Whenever you guys are ready to talk, this one is the right one for you. So we called them and we talked to them. For the most part, most reporters and journalists were okay. They were nice. They were, they weren't rude. But you did have some that were just here for the story. They weren't here to make sure that our children were being remembered or make sure that they were just here just to get what they needed, and they were going to leave.
I'm American. I've watched mass shootings unfold. I knew what was coming. It didn't surprise me. I think I honestly just embraced it. I had a message to get out, and the media was the way to make sure the world heard it. Now, I've become close with a lot of the media that's in town, and I know that years from now they won't be covering our story, but maybe they'll see a sunflower and they'll think of Lexi. That's all I need.
Kimberly, you're a journalist, and so I'm wondering, was it easier for you to talk to journalists? I mean, like you said, you knew what was coming. So I'm wondering if you, working in the field or being in the same, being a journalist yourself, if that sort of made it easier, or you knew how to talk to journalists, or you knew what they wanted. Was that easier for you in that sense?
I think so. Could anticipate questions, could read who I felt was going to be respectful and tell my story the right way. I think it helped.
It's helped us. We go to Kim a lot. Kim, we would call her and ask her, hey, Kim, these people are wanting to talk. These are the questions that they're wanting to ask. Is this something that we should do? And then she doesn't tell us yes or no, but she just kind of tells us, the pros and the cons of it. And then we make the decision from there. So.
What's your guys' overall thoughts on how journalists have been covering Uvalde and the shooting and your families? Have you guys seen that it's been done accurately? Has it been done fair?
I think like anything, there's good and there's bad.
Mm-hmm.
We're approaching the 1-year mark. The attention will go away, the media will go away. Still have our local paper, and that's who we'll rely on to make sure that everyone's held accountable, to make sure that in the years to come there's transparency so this doesn't happen again.
You mentioned about accountability. I wanted to know, there's still a pending decision on charges. I wanted to ask you guys, do you want charges to be filed and against who?
Yes, I want charges filed. I don't know if I can speak to who without having the investigation in front of me. I'm hoping that our district attorney makes the right decision. I mean, I say that we can't call out everybody without the investigation, and for the most part that's true, but because of the media, what we've seen timestamps of first few officers that arrive. We've heard their interviews. guess just waiting to see what the district attorney does, what the different agencies do as far as firing.
Veronica, what are your thoughts on that, on charges being filed?
I agree. If there was a slight chance that any of those babies could have survived, then they weren't doing their jobs. They stood out there for 77 minutes and did nothing.
And to be clear, they took more than just that. Just say my child's dead immediately. Had they intervened right away, I would know that. Because there's the 77 minutes. What you've taken from me is closure and answers. I'll never know. I don't know how long my daughter was terrified. I don't know those answers, and I'll never have them. And that's what they've taken from me.
The anniversary is coming up. I know some families are leaving town. I wanted to know what you guys plan on doing for the anniversary.
Thought about leaving. But our problems would just follow us. We decided to do what we always do, and that's stick together. We planned a visual led by the Casadases. They're really great at organizing.
Yeah, they're good organizers.
So we're going to have a candlelight visual on May 24th. Invited everyone to attend. We want everyone to remember our children, and if they can't, we're asking them to light a candle where they're at.
Veronica, you mentioned, you're a teacher, and we talked a little bit about some of the triggers that you guys may get reminded of the shooting. I'm wondering, how do you, and during the holidays, I think you mentioned too that you guys wanted to stay away from family just because you were seeing children running around. Is that something that still bothers you, seeing children? Do you get reminded of Tess every time you see children running around? And what other triggers may sort of affect you?
And it's not so much just children. I think it's just more our immediate family, especially during the holidays, because we were such a close family, and we still are. It's just, I have to learn how to live a new life without Tess. And I have to learn how to live with going to birthday parties, going to Christmases, and seeing her cousins playing, knowing that she was there playing with them too. So I have to learn how to live with that, and I just don't know how yet. I don't know how to do that yet. And it's hard because I don't want to offend any of my family. We love them. I love them to death. But I just don't know how to do those things yet.
Kimberly, I recently read that when you go out for your 3-mile run, you go out to the mural of Lexi. Can you tell me, one, why do you go out to run to the mural, and what do you think about when you see the mural?
So I haven't changed my running route. That's where I've always ran. But that's also why I wanted her mural there. I knew it would be on my route. I know it's in front of where I park to go into work. I know it's a beautiful, well-kept building. The mural it's a little bit of light in all the darkness. I love seeing her smile, how happy she looks. Bright colors, vivid. I just run past and I say, "Hi, baby." I sit a while. Sometimes it's a good day and I'm just taking photos and talking with her. Some days it's a bad day and I just put my head in my shirt and sob.
For some families, the shooting caused a lot of financial issues, right? That some of them are depending on savings, and Veronica, I believe you told me at one point that some people have criticized the donation process, right, or the type of money that you guys got from this. Can you both elaborate a little bit about sort of the financial issues that have come up since the shooting? I mean, I know you're working, Veronica, but it felt like you were forced to go back to work. And Kimberly, I believe you left your job as a journalist. So how are you guys surviving financially? Are you guys okay? How has the shooting affected you guys financially?
I mean, in the first few weeks, months, we're obviously not working. We had to move. Almost right after, there's the fact that we don't have insurance anymore because my husband isn't working. The donations helped, but the criticism hurts, makes you feel worse than you already do, because you do feel guilty. Nobody wants money, we want our children.
For us, it was a little bit different. I was still getting paid. We get paid through the summer, so that money's not ours. It's not mine. I don't want it. If I could have Tess back, I could take it. And for people to sit there and say, the things that they've said, it's disgusting. To be arguing about money.
Kimberly, you brought a detail about you guys moving. I recently read the reason why you moved, but do you want to tell the audience why you moved?
Yeah, so the home we lived in wasn't ours. We rented it. 4 bedrooms, 5 children. My middle child, she's 11 months older than Lexi. They shared a room. They've always shared a room. She had problems going back. So she started staying with my older son, but that arrangement, we knew it wouldn't last. So we started looking around. We found a foreclosure property that was near all of the schools. And I looked at my husband and I was like, this is it. If it ever happens again, I can just run home. We're right by Flotus. We're right by junior high, by high school. They can run home.
Can you tell me about why you brought a lot of Lexi stuff from the previous home to your new home? What do you plan on doing with that stuff?
Yeah. Right now, all the rooms are occupied, but one day it'll just be me and my husband and all of Lexi's belongings. So we want to have a room for her. She always wanted her own room. So just a place, her bed, all of her photos, her jerseys. Just a place to, just the three of us.
Veronica, Tess had a cat, and Evan, the photographer for the Tribune, took a really nice picture of the cat on Tess's bed. Can you tell me about some of can you share a little bit about Tess and her relationship with the cat?
Yeah, her cat's name is Oliver. She had just gotten him probably 4th of July weekend of the year before. And that cat was everything to her. She loved him. She always wanted animals. Like, we love animals, but I've never liked having animals inside the house. And my husband finally caved and said that she could get a cat. And so we got the cat for her, and she took care of him so good. She made sure that his litter was always clean, his food, he had food, his water was there for him. She would get mad when we'd have to go out of town or something because she wanted to take Oliver with her, and there was times that we couldn't. But yeah, Oliver was pretty special to her. With a lot of the gifts that we received like little necklaces, and there was one that we received that had a picture of Tess on there. So my husband put the necklace on Oliver. So when he's running around the house, you see his little necklace of Tess on him. And he's there. So eventually I think Faith will end up taking him once she moves, because she's become real attached to him when she's home. So but I have a big feeling she's going to have to fight her dad for that one.
I noticed that some families have been using pets as sort of to find support, right? Emotional support. I'm wondering with you two, or even your children, is there other methods that you guys are using to find emotional support? Do you guys have brought up, or have you guys taken up different hobbies or some other things with your children, or are your children doing something else that they weren't doing before?
I'd say it's just leaning on each other. We do a lot of family activities. Like to go to the cemetery with all of the kids, do what we would have done with her if we were outside. We'd blow bubbles, we paint, just lay with her, we'll talk. On those days, I love hearing them talk to Lexi because they're talking to her like she's sitting next to them. They leave space for a response. And while it's really hard not to have one, it's really beautiful that they still have that relationship.
So as Faith isn't here, we have no other children. So our house is very quiet now. It's just my husband and I. And it's just very quiet. I depend on these girls a lot because I don't want to put that pressure on Faith. I don't want to worry her when she's not here. But it's the worst feeling ever, walking into your house and not hearing the TVs, not hearing her running in the hallway, roller skating in the house.
Moving forward, you guys are still very politically active. You guys are still taking trips to Austin and presumably DC. what would you guys like to see done? What's the next step for you guys as far as possibly changing the gun laws or any other social issue that you guys think needs to change?
I think from the beginning, our focus has been a complete ban on assault weapons at the federal level. When session started here in Texas, we worked at just raising the age to purchase an assault weapon from 18 to 21. We thought this will save lives while the federal government gets it together. Didn't go as planned. We learned a lot in the process. So we're regrouping and we'll be back. We're never going to stop. I'm going to make sure that Lexi's legacy is change. But there was a lot of hope. We saw at least 2 Republicans work with Democrats and voted for House Bill 2744. We saw them cry. They asked to pray with us, and then they voted in favor of raising the age from 18 to 21. And that's our children. That's their doing.
It was our voices.
How do you, Veronica, I think this is something that you and I had talked about, but about prioritizing keeping up with politics. I believe both of you guys voted before May 24th. That's something you guys had already done. But has that, how do you guys convince other people that voting is important and to keep up with who's running and the proposals that candidates are proposing? Is that something that you guys also do now? Influencing, people near you, your acquaintances on keeping up with that?
Yes, but also I voted. I voted responsibly. It still happened to me.
Yeah.
So I guess the message is, yes, you have to go out and vote. You need to have your voice heard. But we all need to be doing more.
We can't just be sitting at home anymore and just saying that our opinions don't make a difference, because they do make a difference. I think we get stuck on the old ways of, there's so many people out there, they're going to vote and we're not going to win anyways. You have to get out and you have to vote. You have to be that voice, because our daughters don't get to be their own voices anymore, so we have to be the voice for them. And we're going to voice our opinions, and we're going to voice what's right.
You mentioned the pessimism about my vote. It's not going to change things. I find that to be very common among Mexican Americans. It's a generational thing. How do you cut through that sort of generational pessimism of, pa que voto? It does, nothing changes. How do you get through that?
I think by doing exactly what we're doing right now on the stage. It's just sharing Lexi's story, Tessa's story, these children, those 2 teachers. Yes, we go to the Capitol and we're asking politicians to change, but it starts at the ground level. It's changing hearts and minds, everyday people. And that's what we're doing. That's our goal.
I'm wondering, I know that you guys have voted before, but you guys have never been put in a position of talking to lawmakers, in some cases confronting lawmakers. Is that intimidating to you guys?
When you've buried your child, nothing else can hurt you. So, no, I don't find it intimidating. I've had a lot of help navigating, but I can look someone in the eye and tell them that they're wrong.
I think for me, it was hard at the beginning. It was something new. I've learned a lot, but I learned that they're human just like I am, and they're put in that position because we voted them in. and we don't work for them, they work for us. And when I figured that out, it made it that much easier to let them know, that we all have our own opinions. We're all going to have our own opinions, but their job is to be the voices of their communities, not to be their own voice. So if that's a position that they want, then they need to step down because they're not doing to the best interest of the community.
Thank you, guys. I'm sure the audience has some questions. If you guys are okay with that, we wanted to open it up to questions from the audience. Someone on the right here first.
Thank you, ladies, for being brave and sharing some of the most difficult things that you guys have lived this past year. But I wanted to ask you, sorry about that. Wanted to ask you guys how the healing has been for you guys. Has it made it more difficult because of the lack of accountability, the lack of transparency, the lack of change? Has that made it that much more difficult for you guys to heal, to even start that process?
I think that's exactly why we haven't been able to start the process. We don't have answers. There's a lot of what ifs.
I don't think we'll ever be able to start that grieving process until we truly know what happened in those rooms that day, in that hallway.
Would some sense of accountability would that kind of be able to help you guys take that step forward?
Yes.
Thank you. Another question here?
Yes, I do. Thank you for sharing your stories and details again and yet again. We've heard and seen you fight for demand accountability at all different levels. And we, the family of Jacqueline Cáceres, we talked about it, and we look at what does justice for Jackie look like. And for us, justice for Jackie looks with change. When change happens at all different levels in accountability, that's what it looks like for us. What does it look like for you both?
I think the change as well. I mean, if you sit here and you think that it's never going to happen to you, it's going to happen. We sat here and we watched. I remember watching TV and watching the news and watching the shootings happen. And I told my husband, I can't even imagine what that parent is going through. And until there's change, people are going to continue joining this club that nobody wants to be a part of.
I think the same for me. It's change. It's knowing that my daughter's life, knowing that she didn't die in vain.
And thank you for doing this. People here in the audience and all over the state and America need to realize that this will happen to them if change doesn't happen, positive change. And thank you again.
What question over here?
Could you speak about the role that the memory of Ms. Mireles and Ms. Garcia and Arnie and Elsa sort of plays in your sort of grieving and healing process today?
Yes, Lexi loves Mr. Reyes, and I've just decided that I want to love him the way that she loved him and support him. Never want him to feel guilty. Like Lexi wouldn't want him to feel guilty. I hope he knows that we're in his corner.
Ms. Garcia and Ms. Mireles were wonderful teachers. I specifically asked for Tess to be placed in that classroom because I knew that they were going to help Tess. Tess suffered from dyslexia, so I knew that both their expertise were going to get her where she needed to be, and she loved them. Tess struggled a lot with school, and I was really worried about her going into this classroom, and they showed her so much love and so much support. She talked about them every day. They were wonderful ladies.
Question over here.
Thank you for sharing. My wife is a teacher, and she's been in active shooting situations, drills at schools, police officers at schools, metal detectors, and then having to live through arming teachers, bulletproof backpacks. It just seems like the militarization of the schools, it's a lot of trauma on her. And she's 63 and debating whether to continue, teaching. Could you just talk a little bit about what it's like to be a teacher and a parent in today's kind of school situations and what these do and what makes sense? And then on the other hand, what really only exacerbates trauma, fear, and concern from your perspectives?
I feel like if they try to change the laws to put guns into the teachers' hands, that'll be my last day working. A gun is what took my child, and having guns in the schools is not right. A school is a place for learning. It is not a place for children to be worrying about metal detectors, bulletproof backpacks. And our government is the one that is in charge of making these things easy for, I don't even know how to say it, like they're just,
Those are all reactive responses.
there's no place for guns in schools, period.
Kimberly, do you want to add to that? Question over here.
Thank you for sharing these powerful stories. Could you tell us about what kind of support or advice or perspective you've received from other families of victims of mass shootings or even survivors of mass shootings? Because sadly, from Newtown to Parkland to Santa Fe High School here in Texas, there is, as you say, a large number, millions really, of Americans who've been touched directly by gun violence.
Yes, we've received a lot of support from them. They've kind of taken us under their wing and helped us navigate this new space, shared their wisdom. But it's always difficult being with mothers who've lost their children because it's just a look into the future, and it could be a decade and they're still so broken. And it's the realization of knowing that this never gets better until I'm with Lexi.
Like Kim said, we have had a lot of support. We've had text messages from them when there's other shootings that have occurred. They call, they text just to check in on us. They just want to let us know that they're there. We've had several conversations with them of things that, can better support us and things that we need to make sure that we follow. But they're there. They've been there for us since day one, really.
with the 1 year mark approaching, what is your main message to the entire country, one? And then two, how do you want the 24th to be remembered, not just at the 1 year mark, but going forward, or do you want it remembered?
I really like that you use the 1 year mark, because using the anniversary is something that we usually celebrate. And this is something that we are not celebrating. So thank you for using the 1 year mark.
I think I want moms and dads to hug their kids for us, to just really take it all in, because you never know when it's taken away. I want people to join us in this fight, because it's their fight. On May 24th, I want people to remember all the children and the 2 teachers. Go play softball for Tess. Wear something yellow for Lexi. That's all I can ask for.
Go ahead.
So after all the media and reports, I Googled Uvalde and I found millions of articles on the internet. After all of this, how will accountability be obtained then, if that is the route to healing? How will accountability be obtained?
I think it's up to us as a community. We have to stick together in this. We're going to be at the forefront demanding accountability, transparency, change. We need our community to back us. I know that we talk about the media leaving, but we still have here our local newspaper to tell these stories. That's important. Again, just community support.
Community.
I just want y'all to know that the whole world sends you their love and care and support.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I do have one. On that topic of accountability, can you guys describe the relationship that you guys have with the district attorney's office or with the district attorney? Do you guys feel that she's been transparent in this process? Has she kept you up to date on the progress on the investigation and the pending decision on charging anyone?
I think she has a difficult job in that there are no updates.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to take that out on her.
When she does get information,
Yeah, she does update us.
She does update us.
It's hard to trust anyone, but I really have no choice in this situation, and I'm hopeful that she does what's right, and these people will face charges.
Great. If there are no additional questions, I really thank you guys for doing this again. I'm sure it doesn't get any easier, but I hope that you guys get what you guys need mentally and emotionally. So thank you again.
Thank you.